All right, all right. Welcome back to the Chefpreneur Show. Another new week, a new Wednesday, new start time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we
Yep.
should be able to be consistent on this going forward. So if you are tuning in today and you've been excited for the show, go ahead and tune in with us every Wednesday at this time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and just buckle up, baby. It's going to be a
Buckle
wild
up.
ride.
It's going to be fun times. Buckle up.
You
Buckle
got some
up.
more stuff for us today
You
for
know
tonight?
what? Yeah. And again, just for everybody joining us live today, if this is your first time joining us, make sure that you're liking this stream. Make sure you're subscribing to our channel and make sure you hit that bell for notifications. Ding, ding, ding. So we can get notified. You can get notified when we go live. And yeah, I do have now. Listen, if you're new joining the show, this show is all about chefpreneurship, right? We're all about starting a personal chef business.
That's
We believe
chefpreneurship.
chefpreneurship.
Chefpreneurship,
I like it
not
instead of
chefpreneur shit.
no.
Chefpreneurship.
Yes, chefpreneurship with a pi, not with a ti. Um, but it's all things chefpreneur, and we're talking about really we believe that starting a personal chef business as a professional chef or a passionate cook is the best route to take um, when starting your own business. We really believe it's the future for all culinarians, and so that's what this is all about. And realistically here we do have some articles. I have some exciting news for some people, but I actually just picked some things that interested me. But Brock, also before the show, you said that you had something
I
that
do. I have a surprise that
he
you
says
don't
he has
even
a
know about.
surprise. Yeah, a surprise
You
for
don't even know
me.
about, and I think it'll be
So
exciting for the people viewing.
yeah, I
It
mean
might go. It might
honestly,
go above some heads, to be honest, because it's more on the tech side. But it's exciting things that we're doing, that we're working on, and you don't know. So I wanted to get a genuine, authentic reaction out of you, basically. So
yes, yes. Well, the thing is that um I don't know what it is. So I'm anxious to kind of find out about it, but it's going to be kind of fun to
you
find
can
out
wait.
about it with all of you guys here. And so let's just dive in. So I wanted to just first right off the bat. Last week we were talking about Noma. For the guys that missed a show last week, we were talking about Noma, which is a very high end 3-star Michelin restaurant in Copenhagen, and they're saying they're shutting down. They're saying that the culinary industry and the fine dining industry per se is not sustainable. And I was like, my first thought was kind of like, yeah, kind of know that it's hard to sustain. Um, and this show's not talking about restaurants necessarily, but at the same time, we're kind of like, I don't want to say throwing rocks at the restaurant industry, but in a way
Yeah,
we kind of are, because for so long the culinary industry or the restaurant industry has not necessarily been the best to chefs.
it's really not the it's really not the restaurants themselves. It's the I think it's the culture,
It's the
the
culture.
industry.
Yeah.
It's the toxicity of it. Not all of it is toxic. Obviously, there's wonderful people out there, wonderful business owners, wonderful restaurateurs.
Yeah, it's true.
But overall, there's so many ugly, gruesome things that you hear about coming out of the industry. That's what we're really throwing it about. It's
Yeah.
like we're
Yeah.
not here saying let's crush the restaurants and crush the hotels. It's like that's not what we're not even competing against that.
No, and that's the
Um,
thing is that like we because we've had so much, like again, when we were talking about it last week, it's just there's a lot of things about the restaurant industry that unfortunately are not sustainable. And I'm looking at it like me as a I kind of see things, I guess you would say visionary wise. I mean, both me and Brock are we're visionary people. We see certain things, we're trying to look at trends, but you can look at trends all you want, but unfortunately, it's getting harder and harder every year for chefs to really start a restaurant per se. It has to be like the spot has to be dialed in. I mean, you can't. It's really hard to start a restaurant anywhere, but then there's places that are just it's ludicrous with the amount of like the leases going on, and then just even all the utilities and stuff like. Of course, starting something in Mississippi versus Los Angeles, again, you have pros and cons with everything, but I mean, it's just really, really difficult. But with that being said, speaking of Los Angeles, speaking of California, and I wanted to bring on, I just first I wanted to kind of look at. I was reading a couple articles on the kind of news restaurant network is what it's called, and they kind of had a survey and they were kind of taking surveys of like restaurant owners as well as people that are, I guess you would say, in the restaurant industry or the news, I guess you would say. And I wanted to just kind of like, they had a huge restaurant association survey, and they have like, this is what is, for me, it's kind of heartbreaking, but like they found a 50-50% makes of an outlook for restaurateurs, meaning like 50% of restaurateurs actually on the survey. I mean, if they're being honest, we don't know, but they were saying how they were like contemplating like the outlook of 2023, that if it was going to continue a trend that they saw in 2022, which obviously was better than like 2020 because that was when the pandemic hit, but they just said they're not really like, they're looking at maybe either selling the restaurant or closing it down. 50% of them. Now, this is another thing that I like. Check this out. It says much of what is keeping the operators up at night are food and labor costs. Okay, it says 92%.
Well, it's the bulk of what the restaurant is.
92% of the people that took that survey said that food costs are a significant challenge, right? Well, 89% say the same about labor costs. So pretty much
Oh yeah.
everybody on the survey was saying food and labor is like, it's hard to manage. Now, here's the
And
thing.
of the food cost, 95% was eggs.
Yeah. Yeah. What is this whole eggs thing
I don't
going
know.
on? It's just, I don't even
But I
know.
imagine
about
it's
this.
like, oh my God, the price of eggs, it's just going to put us under.
I mean, what's crazy to me though is like 90, like,
well, we're take omelets off the menu. No
that's
omelets.
now let me now I'm going to try to give you, now listen, I'm going to try to give you guys all a different perspective. Okay. Because you might be saying, Chef, well, yeah, we all know that groceries have gone up. We all know food costs has gone up. We obviously know that labor costs has gone up. First of all, it's hard to find labor. That's another thing too that the study was saying.
Labor.
And it's funny too, because it does continue on saying coffee and eggs cost, for instance, contributed a 30% jump. So not only the eggs,
I was kind of joking, but it's also
the coffee.
Serious.
And honestly, coffee is like money making time. You know,
coffee's huge.
Most breakfast places,
the markup on coffee is insane.
It's ridiculous. But here's the thing. One of the things that I realized was, it's easy as easy as us to look at like the restaurant industry and say, okay, food costs are going up. That's clear. That's, it's going up for the consumer. It's been up. It's whatever. And then also labor costs has also gone up. And there used to be a rule for all the old schoolers out there like myself that have been in the industry for a long time. There used to be a rule where it was 25% food cost, 25% labor cost, 50% gross margin. That is not even close to how it is anymore, unfortunately. Okay, now that's been long gone for years. I mean, even Gordon Ramsay would teach on stuff like that. He would say that in Kitchen Nightmare episodes back in the UK when he first started the show 20 years ago. But here's the real truth. Here's another thing that most people are not looking at, and here's how I look at it. Because here at Chefpreneur, we actually are like, we're all about the chef. We're not, now again, in a restaurant, things like that, yes, like there's some owners and stuff like that, and that's why I'm not trying to just throw rocks at restaurants, but in turn, the entire culinary industry, whether it's a corporate dining establishment, a restaurant, a hotel, yeah, you guys, they're in business to make money. Like, let's just face it, we get it. But think about that. Think about that for a second. How come these restaurant owners in the survey did not say that they're like, they were 92% were significantly challenged by food cost. 89% said the same about labor cost. Now think about that. What is one of the most valuable members of your team when you have a restaurant? A chef. And if the food cost is so high, it's funny because it's like, they're not going to sit there and say, how do we attract the best chefs and give them raises? They're sitting there saying, how do we freaking cut labor? How do we get a cook to come in and replace the chef, or two cooks and replace two chefs or whatever? Like, and I don't want to hate on them. I mean, unfortunately, they've been put in a position to do that. I don't want to hate on them, but at the same time, like, because they got to do what they got to do to keep their lights on and keep their business open. But it's like, it leaves the chef nowhere. I want you guys to comment on the show if you've ever been in a restaurant job where, I'm telling you, I've been there before at a hotel, and I'm sitting there and I'm talking to my superior about getting a raise or a possible raise from a review, and all of a sudden 3 weeks later, you see this general contractor come through the restaurant, and you're like, who's this guy? And he's walking through and he's giving them estimates on putting in this brand new bar. And they're getting estimates to put in a brand new bar for $250,000. And you're like, you can't give me a $10,000 a year raise?
No.
But you're gonna put in a $250,000 bar? Like, again, I'm not saying that, a nice bar is not going to produce money for the restaurant. I get it. Like, especially with alcohol sales are how most fine dining places make money. But it just seems a little bit crappy and odd. And that's the thing for me. It's like, okay, so I just wanted to share that survey because it really leaves the chefs kind of high and dry. And the chefs have been like, us chefs have been getting screwed for so long in this industry. And there is companies that value chefs, don't get me wrong, the creativity. I think that unfortunately though too, the unspoken truth is that there's a lot of management involved in restaurants as well.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, like, this is also part of the reason why a lot of restaurants fell and a lot of businesses fell. If I can step on some toes today, which is what we're going to do on this show sometimes. We're going to step on some toes. We're going to have some laughs. We're going to, be some goofy. But I wanted to ask you your thought on this, Brock, because for those of you guys that don't know Brock, he's our COO, right? Chief Operations Manager or
Coup.
Officer.
Coup for short.
Coup for short. He's a cuckoo. No, I'm just joking. Wait, that's kind of fun. Anyway, um, he is dialed in on processes, procedures. He's that guy that's looking at everything and crossing T's and dotting I's. That's right, baby. That's right. And he actually can cook pretty damn good too. I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, you can cook pretty good.
Cook a meatball.
Oh god, him and the meatball. Actually, the meatballs are good. Okay, I'm gonna get over that. They would be better if they were homemade.
Okay.
But that's okay. So anyway, that's another subject. But here's the deal. I wanted to ask you this on this because you coming from that side of it, most chefs, and we deal with this in Chefpreneur all the time, most chefs are phenomenal at the food part. I mean, no offense, like that's what they do, right? They know how to produce food. They know how to make great food. A lot of them do them. Now, I'm not saying that there's not hack chefs out there because there is. Okay. But I mean, like everything from like even home cooks, passionate cooks. Yeah, we've tried some really good food from our students in Chefpreneur. And one of the things that why I believe that again the personal chef industry is the future and will continue to be is because let's just face it, a lot of chefs though, and I want your take on this, they don't have the management part. And so I feel like a lot of restaurants fail. They think in their mind, okay, if I start a food truck or if I start even a catering company or if I start a restaurant, like I know how to make good food, right? And because they're in a position where they're a chef, they're a salaried chef, they're an employee somewhere, they go to do their own thing and now they become an entrepreneur and they have a business now. Tell us a little about on your opinion, because you've seen that you worked with chefs now within Chefpreneur with us. And and a lot of them, with all due respect, they don't know how to do the other stuff, the admin stuff, the marketing stuff, how do I keep track of all the numbers. Now, a lot of chefs know the food costing and stuff like that. Now we teach against that. We don't do food costing, and we teach you guys not to do food costing. You don't have to with our method. But like, do you think that that's probably a big reason of why even some of the chef-driven restaurants fail? Because they're so driven on the food, which is great. It's the epitome. It's high, but then like counting the cost and the admin and the whole other aspect of it. Do you think that's where they fall short a lot of times?
Yeah,
Or
I think it's a multitude of things, but mainly I think that's a huge part of it. And looking at it from the outside, and this is obviously I don't want to pretend that I'm diagnosing anything as though I'm
yeah,
like somehow know or have this crystal ball to look into it. But if you just look at it from an outside perspective and kind of try to dissect it and say what would I think is kind of going on there. I do. Chefs are very creative, and I'm a
hmm
very creative type, but then I
hmm
come in with also kind of a logistical systematized way of supporting the creativity, which I think gives it structure and why I've been able to do more things with my creativity, and kind of get further with it. Whereas somebody who's just purely creative but doesn't have a lot of that kind of systems and looking from like marketing, for instance, or sales, and going, okay, well, I enjoy and I love that process as well. I enjoy the process, right? If
hmm
I can combine that with my creativity, I can get further. But if it's just creativity, then you're a starving artist.
yeah,
You're just out there on the street, trying to to hawk your creation, but you have no actual great way of presenting it. You have no great way of how do I put the messaging? How do I psychologically approach them and attract them to what it is that I'm doing?
Yeah.
Which is what some of the greatest chefs have done is look at look at some of these, reality star chefs, right? And they're massive successes in their space. Granted, whether or not you want to say they're a sellout or whatever,
Hmm.
which some
Hmm.
people want to say about chefs, they have done food, they've done it well, but then they've also done something else really, really well, which is the marketing and the sales, or at least have known to get outside help, and
It's
somebody
true.
to
Yeah.
advise
Yep.
to make that happen. So I would agree with your statement, but I felt like I wanted to dive into that more to kind of back up the reasoning behind that as well. Um, and the difference between being in a restaurant and then going and doing your own thing, you have to be careful. And this reminds me of actually this morning, standing at the bus stop with my son. He looks up and I said, so what's new at school? Like, what are you learning new? We're just having a little conversation before the bus comes, and he mentions how they're learning about Martin Luther King, obviously this week because of Martin Luther King Day. And I said, oh, that's awesome. I said, the most important thing, Finn, is to always just be open to learning. You can always learn more.
Yeah.
And because my son often likes to say, well, I know that already. I know everything about Minecraft, right? I know everything. Well, we learned about Martin Luther King, so I know everything about that.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, so what was he doing when he was 28? I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you answer
Exactly.
that? And I said, so there's something you still have to learn about him, right? Like you can learn that about him. I said, so don't fix your mindset. Okay. And that I wanted to use that as kind of an analogy for some of these chefs that they get into the restaurant and they say, I know everything there is about the restaurant.
Yeah.
I
It's
know
true.
everything there is about running a restaurant. Therefore, I can run a restaurant myself. There's a bias in our minds, though,
Yeah.
often when we're doing something that we've been so in it for so long, we think we know everything there needs to be to think about it, but we forget that we only know from the capacity that we were involved in it. As
Yeah.
a chef in a restaurant, you're back in the kitchen and you're taking orders and you're cooking things to some degree, depending on what position you're in. You have some level of autonomy to be
Yeah.
able to make choices. But when it comes to leaving that position and going and starting your own thing, all of a sudden you wake up to reality and you start realizing, oh shit, like I got to know now about how to market my restaurant. I got
Yep.
to know
Yep.
how to do all the food costing. I got to know how to do the salaries. I got to know the tax implications. I got to know the equipments and the laws and the regulations. And there's a whole host of things that come
Yep.
that they didn't realize, that they go, shit, I was really just in the kitchen kind of, they were telling me to do this and I was doing this.
Yep. Yep. It's the classic.
And that's where I
That's,
think,
yeah.
yeah,
That's, I love that.
the problem of the creative mind, we can be very confident, but then we can be hit with that whoop, like if
Whoopsie
I'm not
daisy. Yeah.
careful.
No, it's, it's funny. It reminds me of a story of a long time ago when I think I've even said it before, maybe on another podcast or something, but remember when we were renting a house in San Diego, we had the water heater needed to be replaced, right? And we had this young kid come up, probably 25, 26 years old, and great, nice guy, very nice guy, came up, and he was working for one of the larger companies in San Diego, like the larger kind of plumbing companies. And he comes in, and I'm just like, kind of like, I'm just curious. Obviously, like, the landlord's paying the whole thing, right? I'm not paying it. And he brings in the water heater and things like that. He had to go to Home Depot. He needed a couple extra valves or whatever he did. And he comes up and we start talking, and he's like, yeah, it's like, so we start talking about like what I do and things like that. And, so obviously I know what he does. And he's like, oh, cool, man. Like, you have your own business, like you're an entrepreneur. He's like, yeah, I thought about, he's like, like I really want to maybe possibly one day have my own plumbing company, you know? And I said, that's great, man. Like I said, you can go, he goes, yeah, he goes, and he said, this is, again, it's funny because this is sometimes we, and I'll be the first to admit this, like, doesn't even mean we're dumb, but we could be ignorant in a lot of things. We're just not knowing. A lot of times, like when I first started my business, I was completely ignorant. I had no idea. I thought the same thing. Oh, I'm just going to cook good food and people are going to come. It doesn't work that way, right? And so this kid, anyway, just kind of reminds me because he was telling me like, oh yeah, it's like, he's like, they pay me $25 an hour, which is good. I mean, I'm not complaining. He's like, but I see on the invoice and they're charging $100 per hour per labor, you know. Now his mind is thinking $75 is just getting ripped off from him. So he's thinking, well, I can go charge $100 an hour too. And he can.
Mhm.
Okay. The problem is you're going to put on 7 other hats to do that now, right? Because now this is a really large company in San Diego. It's a family business, but they've been around for years. And I won't mention the name, but like they're legit. I mean, they're legit. So I started digging into, I think I've even told you this story. I started digging into like, how does your day go? He's like, oh, well, it's like, I was like, well, who preps your truck for you? Like, so you have your work orders. Like, I was just curious about processes, right? And again, you're a processes guy. So I was like, how does it work? He's like, well, I come in and like there's an overnight team that like sets up our vans for us. Then he had like a little tablet, like he was showing me on his little iPad. It has all of his work orders. It has the directions of which one to go to first and last, obviously, and the times and all that, and what the work order was. He's supposed to have all the parts in his truck. He was saying that he has to go pick up the water heater from like some warehouse, but that's just because it's a water heater, right? So like things like that. I was like, okay. So he's like, so I'm like, wait a minute. Like you show up in your car, in your whatever, your shirt, and you pretty much have your iPad ready to go. Your van's like, do they have a gas station on site? He goes, oh yeah, there's like 3 full pumps. They get, like
Right.
they fill up our vans every night, all that stuff, right? They check your gas. And
Oh,
I'm
they
thinking
do.
like,
They
so think about it. Yeah, they do
fill it
that.
up.
Like the
Oh,
company does. So he just shows up,
right.
and no wonder all he is a technician.
Yeah.
Like all he does is get in his car, in his van, and go do the work orders,
Yep.
right? And then he's taking pictures of all the work orders and stuff. And he has all these processes to follow. So I'm like, wait a minute. Like all you're doing is the plumbing. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, when you have your own business, you're going to do the plumbing, the marketing, the sales. You're the one that's filling up the truck.
Yeah.
You're the one that's doing
you have to think about the whole
all the
process,
whole thing,
the tablets, the
tablets,
software,
everything.
how is it going to work from the order to the actual
And
arriving?
And so really the value, again, the company is doing an amazing job by keeping it dialed in, and people don't realize, and it actually leads me to my next article, which is kind of crazy because I never would have thought this was going to come out. But the reason why now we were talking about restaurants, we're talking about fine dining, and the most successful restaurants, and let's again, I don't want to just talk about restaurants all day because
Yeah, we don't want to, let's make sure that we also cap this off with a something like we've gone through the doom and gloom. I also want the other.
No.
Let's get rainbows and butterflies.
This is going to be rainbows and butterflies.
And if our camera turns off, by the way, I'll turn it back on just to let you know we're on a budget.
We got a new camera. It's on its way. We got a new budget or new camera. It's on its way. Thank God.
New budget.
New budget. Well, I hope we get a new budget.
I didn't hear about this.
We got this sheet of paper here, and this is kind of and I can't wait for my surprise.
Yeah,
which is coming. But so we were talking about high end restaurants closing down. It's hard to manage. We got all that right, and so again, that is kind of doom and gloom. And like we talked about, chefs, they are more technicians. They're artists. We're craftsmen. And so we don't have all the answers figured out. We have to learn all these other skills. Now, the good news is with Chefpreneur, if you're ever interested, like this business model we teach with being a personal chef, not only is there a lot less to manage as a business, just as a business overall, you're not some crazy plumbing company where you're installing a $17,000 piece of equipment or water heater in some massive
over
hotel.
The course of 2 weeks.
Yeah, there's none of that stuff. It's like you are cooking for clients in homes, serving them, making them smile, making them feel great, giving them a great experience and great memories, and you get handsomely paid for that. And we also teach you and help you with Sue software and our training on how to like run the business efficiently. But that's little semi kind of pitch. But I wanted to talk about this because I was kind of blown away when this happens. But speaking of this, just in general with business and processes, people, you don't understand, you don't have no idea that if you create a brand, especially like a personal chef brand, and we've now built this with Dinner with a Chef, where you have an amazing brand that has a repeatable success, right? We have process in place, we have things in place, it runs very well and like a well-oiled machine. And so those things are on repeat. And that's what a good business does. And it doesn't matter what kind of business you have. And so even in the restaurant space, very few people get to that point, or at least they the creative ones, it's hard because it's hard sometimes to replicate creativity unless you're a personal chef business. And why I think that is because a restaurant, you have a whole room of people And it'd be like the waiter going around every table and taking a customized order for the table. That, first of all, if you were the chef there, that'd be your living nightmare. Okay. As a personal chef, you're going to do one event, 10 people. You were able to be creative, create the menu with the client, so forth and so on. And so anyway, I just think it's not a perfect business model because there's no such thing, but I believe it's the best business model for any chef. But I wanted to kind of just share this news with you. I don't know if you guys heard this. For all my West Coasters out there, I was born and raised in San Diego. If you don't know that about me, Brock was born and raised in Iowa.
In a barn.
In a, what are you wearing?
Oh, for real?
Oh, cool.
No, I wasn't.
No, not even close. No, he was from a small town of Chicago. No, I'm just joking. No, he was small town of Camryn, Iowa, with 200 people or less, unless it was like a Friday night and the people were at the bar. Guess what is coming to Tennessee? Guess what is coming? In-N-Out Burger is coming to Tennessee.
That's crazy to me.
Okay, now what's crazy is like this is one of the biggest, in my opinion.
They're going to come out with the Nashville hot burger.
Maybe, probably not. No. Here's the thing: they have a recipe for success, and they're not going to change it if they're smart. But they are opening up a corporate hub in Franklin, Tennessee. Which, by the way, Franklin is like.
I imagine they're going to open restaurants too, right?
Like they are, yeah. No, yeah. It says they're promising a $125 million investment in the state, and it says the California-based burger restaurant estimates expansion in Tennessee will create 275 jobs right off the bat. And it says they're going to open up a 100,000 square foot office in Berry Farms area of Franklin by 2026, and it will house all the departments to support the company's growth in Tennessee, such as operations management and human resources. Yeah. Now, here's what's crazy. It also says. We have an eye on a few locations that aren't far along enough to name specific areas, but they are slowly expanding. And I mean, Nashville is growing crazily. I mean, In-N-Out right now has 385 locations in California, Nevada, Arizona, Utah, Texas, Oregon, and Colorado. And then they have other company locations as far east as Texas, further like Texas is like the furthest they've gone until
everybody from California is moving to Texas, so
yeah. Now
it could move.
What's crazy? Yeah, no. What's crazy is that really. What's crazy is they chose Nashville. Get this, because it's the $1 billion. They call her the princess of like the franchise because I think it was her grandfather started and then her dad left it to her. Then it went to her dad and now to her, and she's running it. I mean, it's a private company, by the way, right? So you can't get a franchise. But she literally says here. We came years ago, actually, east of the Smokies. We went to Pigeon Forge in Nashville and fell in love. There was one other state definitely interested in wanting us there, but we chose Nashville. And I don't think so. Anyway, it's a great family business. The reason I'm bringing this up is because they are, even in the recession, whatever, they are crushing it in sales. I mean, they are absolutely crushing it. And it's because they have their processes down and a great product, right? And so, again, any business you need really two ingredients. You need a great product and great processes. And really the processes and the product combined make the entire experience.
I'm coming to save it.
And so, yeah, I know that you guys right now, I think this is where the time in our show where we have some tech difficulties with the camera, but you can still hear me. Don't go away. Please don't stop watching. We need every viewer because we're worse than PBS. All of our public funding is not publicly funded. It's funded by us. And so, yeah, there you go. We're working on it. But In-N-Out is coming to Nashville. Now, it looks a little funkalish. I think you're recording now on the camera too. Yeah, either way. So,
so crazy.
So, yeah, the thing is that.
Look at us, man.
Yeah, we're doing it. Hey,
syndicated talk show.
That's right, baby. What is that? Wayne's World. Excellent. No. Anyway, so I just thought that was cool. We're in Atlanta. I hope a burger makes it down to us in the future.
And Wayne's World had a better setup than us, by the way.
Big time. But yeah, they actually had a real setup. No, they didn't.
They had a camera crew.
But but that's what's in. So anyway, it reminded me of like the process procedures and like, again, as chefs, sometimes we get too fancy with stuff. We get too over inundated in ourselves, our own creativity. And sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot. We don't want to worry about the process, the procedures. We don't want to learn about that stuff when really That is actually what gives us most of the time the success.
So what's interesting about that is I actually I literally have it right here. Um, I
Eat it
just
now,
I
Nashville.
keep notes of like different things that come to my mind.
Can't wait for a double animal style.
And one of the things that I had here, I'll just read it. I was planning on sending this out
Now, what is this? Is
for
this like
creatives
a?
for creatives.
Oh,
No,
okay,
it's like for
nice.
creatives, but it was an argument because I've struggled with this because I sincerely value systems and processes. Like I know and understand the value that it can provide. And some people see systems and processes as at odds with creativity, and it's
Mm-hmm.
actually not.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the two of them could not be more beneficial to each other. But people have to understand, and you guys should know, and this is why you should fall in love with the process as much as the creativity. Because if you love the creativity, but then things aren't going well, like it can get ugly real bad, real
Mm-hmm.
fast.
Oh yeah.
But if you fall in love with the process, just like if you're trying to lose weight and you're exercising, sure, the whole lifting of weights or running or doing the exercise itself or eating healthy, that part of it in the moment may not be the most enjoyable at the times. But if you love the process, or you can find a way to love the process, you will go through and do things regardless of how you're feeling that day,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of whether you're seeing results, because you're in love with the process, not the result. But here's the thing: systems support creativity. So my argument is having systems in place, it supports creativity by providing structure to that creative endeavor. When you have a framework or a set of rules that define kind of the parameters of that creative project or endeavor, and you give creative professionals the necessary boundaries in which to work, it helps to ensure that the outcome is consistent
Mm-hmm.
while also allowing for creative exploration.
I like that.
Think of it as like kids. Kids are happiest when they have boundaries. Why? Because they feel safe and they know exactly what they can do within those boundaries. It'd be like my backyard, right? It's a bigger, has a lot more space, a lot more room, but then there's some trees and bushes and other
It
houses and
leaves.
neighbors and tons of leaves. Don't get me started on the leaves. Uh,
Oh boy, his leaves.
but if
The leaf
since
problem.
we have a fence, my kids can go out back there
Yeah.
and they can find ways to enjoy themselves and be as creative as they possibly can be within those boundaries. But if you take away the fence and you don't have any boundaries and there's no parameters and there's no system, no process to that backyard, then you're left so open that they wander and then they don't know what to do to themselves. They get fearful, they get scared, and then everything starts to kind of fall apart. And then their creativity is hindered by like just inundation with all these
Mm-hmm.
thoughts and ideas. So systems really do support creativity.
They do.
So
Yeah, that's true.
as a chef and as a business owner, especially chefpreneur, you're owning your business, your creativity is absolutely important, but then couple it with processes and systems and you've got the makings of success.
Exactly. And we, like for instance, we have several programs obviously, but we follow what we call the Chefpreneur method. And even again, when you're looking at success of doing something, again, whether you're buying something from IKEA and you have basically your instructions to put together, like there has to be some level of framework or process. And like I like how what you said that is like even with the boundaries, there is creative aspect into that.
Mhm.
And really, I think sometimes again we feel that we're hindered, like especially chefs. I feel like we can be hindered by or feel like we're being hindered because of our creativity by following some sort of like guideline. Now, there's a difference if you're like some corporate chef at Applebee's and you got all this research and data and studies where it's like the chef goes off on the deep end and is like, I want to, do a scorpion, chili pepper, snake, alligator burger. And it's like, I don't think anybody's going to buy that, right? Like, I mean, you can be as creative as you want, right? And
Mhm.
so there's levels of that, but I think, but especially in business, what's funny about it is though, like I have found, and I think that's what you're kind of saying is somewhat of the the more you have a framework, I think it's actually, let me put it this way, I think it actually builds a better foundation
Mhm.
to be more creative. Actually, if we take a recipe, the same thing.
Right.
We all know, like, most of us chefs with the kind of French classical techniques, you can have all these mother sauces, as we call them, right? The Mornay sauce, the bechamel. So as you're going through these sauces that you have as these mother sauces, but then you're adding herbs and spices, and maybe to the Mornay or the bechamel, you're adding cheese and you're doing this and you're doing that and you're adding. it becomes the base of the sauce is the base,
Right.
but it becomes another completely different sauce that's delicious.
Right.
And so like, but you're
It's that
following
freedom to explore.
correct on the boundary or on the
Right. Right.
foundation of the
Exactly.
framework,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
And so like I'll be like I was actually coaching one of our proteges today, Chef George. Shout out to Chef George. And I was doing his one-on-one mentorship with him on sales today. And what's funny about sales is like I'm teaching him our 6-part framework for our sales call, right? And to give you guys some value on that, like clients don't buy um practically or logically. Okay. People make more buying decisions emotionally.
They're very illogical.
They're very illogical.
We as humans are illogical.
Yeah. And what's funny is they buy emotionally and they kind of they make themselves feel good logically. Let me give you an example. It's like someone who's wanting to buy a Ferrari. Okay. They're not buying a Ferrari. I say this, I use a lot of car analogies because it's easy for me, but like they don't buy a Ferrari because they're trying to find an economical or a comfortable way to get to work and back. Like that's not why they're like people aren't buying a Ferrari like, oh, I need a car and I just need something really reliable, so I'm going to go buy a Ferrari, 428. Like, no, that's not what it's not for that. They're buying it emotionally. And even if they were buying it to go to work, there's different emotional pains they can hit. If they are buying a $10,000 Kia, that's just like, hey, I want to get to I want a reliable car to get to work, but they still want to be comfortable. They still want to probably have air conditioning or heat or whatever. I mean, so you just got to find emotional ways as well to present this. So I'm talking to Chef George about this. And again, it's following our framework, but then you can be really creative on how to dive in and explore those pain points. And so I'll give you an example. Like when I was talking to him about this, let's say someone's booking you for, a personal chef. They're trying to book a personal chef for again their anniversary, right? So you have them wanting to, it's their 40th anniversary and they want to do something different. Well, most chefs, again, and again, I'm not trying to step on toes, but most chefs, we don't think sometimes about these emotional things or these kind of diving into marketing tactics and sales tactics and things like that. And so a lot of times chefs will be like, oh yeah, you're doing your anniversary. Great. And they'll just move on to like, well, I've done a lot of anniversaries and I have, I make a great steak, and they start talking about themselves, or you start talking about like what you provide in the past. And if you guys want to take a note right now, because I can give you a nugget here that can make you thousands of dollars on when you're booking services or any business. If you go with emotion and dive into that, and here's what I mean by that. So it's an anniversary of somebody and you're on the phone with them, which we teach to get on the phone call with them. But let's say that this client, again, this potential customer is wanting to do an anniversary dinner and they're looking at you as being the chef. You say, you know what? Wow. How long you guys been married again? 40 years? Wow. Wow, that's impressive. Can I ask you a couple more questions about that? I'm just very curious. Like, wow, what a feat. 40 years. So I start trying to hit emotional points because again, they're not booking personal. Nobody's booking a personal chef because they're hungry. It's not why they're booking a personal chef. Okay, they're booking a personal chef for a deeper reason. And so I want to try to find out that reason. And I'm gonna tell you what, if you want to write this down, the golden nugget is if you can figure out that emotional reason of why they're hiring you, they will hire you. It's as simple as that. So as I'm on a conversation with a client, I could say something like, okay, like, oh, it's your 40th anniversary. What did you do? What did you do last year for your anniversary? And a lot of times, this actually produces a weird kind of context. Like, well, it was our 39th anniversary. We didn't do much, or my husband was out of town for work, or I mean, I've even had clients where it's like, last year, like around our anniversary, like my husband's father passed away, or whatever, and it's like it just kind of put a kind of unfortunately, like it wasn't a good time in our life, or we, or unfortunately our daughter or whatever, went off to college and it was a little bit of like an empty nest sadness. And you'll get them to talk about whatever. And what's funny about that is that like, you might think, what does that have to do with personal chef services? What does that have to do with selling them on your personal chef services? But you're trying to dig into the emotional why. So then another question I can ask is like, okay, like what is your spouse's name? Oh, his name is Mike. Okay, great. Like, and as far as your guys' anniversary, like, can I like, what has kept you guys together for 40 years? Like, this is a big deal. And I've asked that question before, and some of the answers are kind of crazy because they'll be like, well, we actually got divorced once before. We're back together. And the reason I'm saying all this is because at the end of all that, I'm like, wow, thank you so much for opening up. I know that it maybe sounded like I was, and I hope it wasn't being too personal, but our whole purpose here at fill in the blank, your personal chef company, is we really like, we want to be able to serve you. We want this to be the best anniversary you've ever had. And we feel that the more we know about what you're looking for, not only in the experience, but why you're doing this, like we just want to be a part of that. And so I want to make sure that like we can, although like, your husband's father passed away around your guys' anniversary time last year. I can't, we can't bring his father back, of course, but maybe, just maybe, we can give him an anniversary that he'll remember for the next 20 years. And he'll remember that day as being a really, really happy and amazing moment. Or you can say, for all the ups and downs you guys had, for all like, I want to make sure that this anniversary, that you guys are looking each other in the eyes as we light candles on the table, and you guys remember back to when you were literally were divorced 13 years ago, like you said, then reconciled, for you guys to know that on that night, on your 40th anniversary, that we're able to just prepare the stage for you guys to remember of why it was all worth it, to go through the struggle and be married 40 years, even in the ups and definitely in the downs. Like, that sounds really deep.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but Chef, what if I'm not poetic?
I know.
Or
Well, that's where you got to learn from me to be more poetic. But you got to think about these things, because the reason is if you talk like that to a client, you're putting yourself in the 0.1 percentile of chefs.
literally had a conversation with Chef Renee today.
About that.
She just openly was talking about the client that she just recently booked, and she told me that when she was talking to the client, that was everything she was saying was literally, I asked questions, right, around getting to
Mm-hmm.
know them, because she goes, that's really my heart, is I want to know these people and I want to provide them the best possible service.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so the example she gave, because it was perfect, it's just interesting you bring this up, because she was telling me literally today, her client said, I love Tom Ford. Like, they got on the conversation or a topic of this client loving Tom Ford, right? And all the Tom Ford stuff. And so what does Renee do with her service, right? Like you're saying, it went beyond the food. And Renee likes to provide that personalized experience. And they were talking about having taken a trip to, I think, Spain, and they love Spain and Tom Ford and all this stuff. So, as part of being a personal chef, it's in the name, personal. So, she
Yeah. It's
personalized the
awesome.
menu with like a very faded light background of like a Spain scenery, right? And then also did, I can't remember exactly what she said, but she got something that was Tom Ford and kind of more floral, like a
Mm-hmm.
floral Tom Ford type of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And and I'm not kidding you, she said when she sent the menu to the client never went and looked anywhere else. She didn't, she wasn't like, hey, I'm going to look around, or I contacted a few other people. Immediately booked with Renee.
Yep.
And
It's gonna happen.
I was so excited for her, because it's so awesome that she's able to see that and realize that now, and then now she's able to duplicate that and create that
Yep.
consistency of doing
Yep.
that for every single client. And I literally told her the same thing. I said, that's what's going to differentiate you amongst anybody else they ever go to, whether it's a caterer, personal chef, restaurant. No one's doing that. And if
No.
you literally do that,
Nope.
you don't have to be poetic either about it. You ask them questions, and when you're like, oh, this sounds wonderful, I would love to do this, how about I send you a preliminary menu, right? We'll kind of go through that. When you kind of customize that and show them that value, that not only did you ask questions and then you're just kind of like asking questions to ask them, but you actually took action on what they provided
Yep.
you.
Yep.
There's no greater feeling to a person that to feel like, I was heard and I'm understood, and you are now
Mm-hmm.
providing, like, wow. Like, and then I told Renee the next step, right? As part of processes and systems, you keep that documented, right? You store that
Yep.
information. And even if they don't book you for another year, when it comes time and you can send them a message or it comes up again, you know how to have a relational connection to them that is
Yep.
personal.
Yep.
And they'll be like, hell yeah, I'm going to book you again.
Yeah. And
Like,
how did you remember that? Or how did
right.
that's the thing, Brock. It's funny. Like, that's what we teach. That's what we teach is that's the difference between a chefpreneur and a personal chef, even. Like, Now, here's a key. This is not, we're not just trying to like say this and teach you something like this to scam people. Okay, like if you truly don't want what's best for them, then don't do this. But honestly, if you don't want what's best for them, I don't
You
even
won't have
think
a
you should.
business.
I don't even think you should have a business, to be honest. And I wouldn't even want to work with you. Um, but here's the thing, like in that moment, in that client, kind of an example of what I'm saying in that client moment,
Mhm.
or even using Renee's, example as per se, that's what's beautiful about it is like, do you really think they're going to sit there and just price shop after that? They're going to say, this chef truly I can feel. Now I'm going to give you guys another little nugget here. If anybody's going to take notes watching this, there's two things that I've realized. There's two things, and one is I want to tell you about them. One is sympathy, okay, and one is empathy. And I realized that I'm very empathetic. So for me, and I'm going to tell you the difference because some people are like, what's the difference? And there is a difference, of course. But in a simple term, here's what the difference is. Sympathy is like, I feel for how you feel, meaning like, okay, your friend lost their father. Man, I feel bad for you. I'm feeling for them. I'm feeling for their pain. Empathy is not just feeling for their pain, it's actually like being able to feel their pain. So it's almost like instead of feeling for them, you're feeling it. Like you're actually feeling the same pain they do. And so empathy is really feeling like I'm able to connect with you. For instance, someone who, if two people meet and one of them loses their father at 35 and the other one loses their father at 34, they're going to be very empathetic with each other because they know how each other feel, right? And that's very deep. Now, even if you've never experienced what they felt, I believe that you can also put yourself in an empathetic state of mind by saying, if I was them, how would I be feeling right now? Right. And I think this is just humanistic and relational. Like, I really will say I give myself a pat on the back. Nobody's perfect, but I'm good at building relationships. And I really believe it's because I'm very empathetic. I can really feel how people are feeling. And so even if I've never been in their scenario before, right? And definitely I can sympathize with people, probably a little too much. I'll cry my heart out just watching Little Mermaid or whatever. I'm very sensitive, emotional, but empathy is something that you can also practice. And so I think sometimes we don't slow down as well. If we're always about us, if you have pride, that's going to ruin your whole business. It's going to ruin it before you even start. But in this, like let's say on the sales call, you're talking to that client, they're opening up about this whole thing about, his father died last year, but I want to make, and you really actually mean it by saying, I just want to like, let's get you guys a great demo. Let's get you guys to see that all those rough times 10 years ago when it almost all fell apart, that it was all worth it. And then you really mean it as a chef. You're like, and you're writing that note and you're saying, man, I hope they book me. And that's how I'm getting goosebumps right now because that's how I literally, when I was booking clients and taking these sales calls, I was literally like, that's literally what I was thinking in my mind. I was like, I hope to God they hire me, not just because, yeah, I got to pay my rent and income and all that. I really hope they hire me because I was like, I want to be part of like, what a feat. 40 years. They almost lost it. It almost went downhill. And man, like I want to be married for 40 years plus. Like that's so sacred. That's such a beautiful thing that you could be a part of in this, and why being a personal chef is so fulfilling as well. But and I don't want to continue on about that, but I really want you guys to understand that, like having that empathy, putting yourself in their position. And if you really don't want to deliver that service, first of all, you're not a chefpreneur in my eyes, and you should maybe rethink of why you're wanting to do a business. But like really, most of you guys are so awesome. Most of the chefs and the students, of course, almost all of them we work with are like, they love people, they love serving people, they're generous, they want to deliver them the best. And that's what we want to help you achieve, is like realizing that you have these things as tools, and that's a framework, it's a tool.
Mhm.
And some people say, well, it's a tool to dupe people. What are you duping them on? Like, if you, this is what bold statement I'm going to make, and you guys need to get over sales. A lot of people, trust me, we've mentored a lot of people on
I
sales,
know where you're headed with this
and
because
I
I was
and I
thinking
know exactly
I
what
was
you.
going to say it if you weren't.
Yeah, you knew exactly what I was saying. It's like you got to get over this whole thing of making the offer, asking for the sell, pushing the sell hard. If you don't, you really don't believe what you got to offer is worth it. A, B, the way I looked at it when I was on these calls with these clients, legitimately, what was I doing? I was like, I hope to God they don't hire some random Yelp chef. Because if they do, they're not going to care as much as I do because I freaking care. And I knew that going to bed, like laying my head at night, like that was, I had peace about that. I know who I am. I'm not BSing myself. Like I literally want to give them the most amazing experience they've ever had. And so what am I going to do? I owe it to them to sell myself, sell our services to them as hard as I can. Not in a pushy way, but in a like follow up with them every day. Hey, have you found a chef yet? I'm still here. I'm wanting to just give you guys that amazing experience. I can't wait to have you and Mark just have the most amazing anniversary night you ever had, and pushing them as hard as you can. Because it's like, again, going back to the simple, there's that analogy that says, you can, if you have the cure to cancer and nobody knows about it, doesn't mean anything. Well, I also believe you have the cure to cancer and you can't sell somebody on the idea that it's the cure to cancer, it ain't going to benefit the person with cancer. If they don't take the medicine or whatever, I'm just making an analogy. So like, if they don't bite on your services, they're not going to experience what you have to offer. And if you believe you're the best in your area, what you have to offer, you owe it to them to sell them.
I think I think what helps too is I think they don't know where exactly their problem lies with sales.
Mm.
And they look at it and they say, I have a problem with sales, when really you might have a problem with money, your relationship with money,
Oh, that's a
your
good point.
understanding of money.
That's a good
So let
point.
me ask you this. Have you defined for yourself what money is? A lot of people, they don't know how to define money. They don't know the true definition of money and the
Mm-hmm.
purpose of money,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you have a service, you're exchanging your value of what you have for money. That is what it is. It's basically, it's a contract, it's an agreement.
Yep.
It's, here you go, and then you're providing me value. If you believe in your value, then there should be no problem with believing in the exchange of the money for
Yep.
that. That's how the world works. That's how business works. You should become very comfortable with that, and you should feel at ease like you did, knowing, hey, I'm providing a service. If you want to help somebody, it's your duty to sell somebody. That's
100%.
basically what it is.
Yep.
You have something that can help them and solve their problems, then they're going to pay you for that.
Yeah. Yep.
And then you're going to be
That's
able to
good.
turn around and use
That's
that,
really good, Brock.
and you're going to help somebody else, right? Money in a bank has no value. Money in my pocket has no value. The only time money has value is if I'm exchanging it to somebody for
Yep.
something. That is the only time money ever has any kind of value. The question is, what value are you going to get out of that? And that's where you got to be, thinking about it.
That's it. And the value, like we said, going back to the original statement, is emotionally, they're buying emotionally. That's the value. The value in her in that, if in that conversation, if I'm using that same example, the value for the client or the customer on the other end of that phone call is not, is my steak going to be cooked the way I want it to be? Is the salmon going to be perfectly moist? It's, do you understand why I'm doing this? And are you making us have the best anniversary, which is the reason why we're hiring you? You're solving the issue that we're trying to face. Like, we're trying to do something special. It's a big deal. And then when you understand that and you paint them that picture that you understand, there is so much value. I think you even said it earlier, right, Brock? There's so much value on customers being understood, not even just heard, just understood. What is that? It's empathy. It's literally, I know how you feel, or I resonate with what you're going through, or I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to XYZ. You're trying to get a family dinner off before your son leaves to college, and who knows when you're going to see him again. And you're going to be an empty nester, and things start to happen, and you start to miss your son, and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And sometimes when I'm talking to clients like that, I've even had one lady say, man, you're good. And I said, no, I can empathize with you. I can see where you're trying to go with this.
Yep.
Most people, another little golden nugget we teach in our program is we call it deep diving. Like, you have to deep dive. People sometimes they're not going to just out and tell you that information, but you can ask it with open-ended questions, right? Like,
Yep.
why are you looking to do this personal chef service? That's the first one. That's pretty easy. Then it's our anniversary. Well, then what? Let's go deeper. Well, what year are you guys celebrating? What's your husband's name? Again, what did you do last year? Why this time around? Like, is 40 just because it's a round number, or is there some sort of significance? I've never had anybody tell me, when you say it professional like this, I've never had anybody tell me you're asking too many questions, or never. Because the more that I'm asking, they feel like the more I'm caring. And I really believe, in everything that I have, the the things that I've also been sold on in my life. I mean, we've all been sold anything. I mean, every decision in our life, it's like, really, somebody's trying to sell us, or we're trying to sell us something, whether it's our opinion or a thought or whatever, or a toothbrush in the Walmart aisle. I mean, it's every decision we make has this counterbalance of the value that we're getting for what we're outputting, right? Whether our money or time, whatever. And our brain is making these adjustments all the time. And so, really, again, following patterns and processes, our brains work like that. And that's why we're saying people buy with emotion, they don't buy logically. Now, what's funny is, going back to the Ferrari method, a metaphor. What's funny is, after the fact, we then confirm our emotional buy logically, because it just makes us feel better. Meaning, like, perfect example, the same client, I'll use that, and then I'll go to the metaphor of the Ferrari, just to give you two sides of the coin. You might have the lady that's a personal chef, right? So she's like, wow, it's just amazing. You just got done with this whole emotional thing, and you're deep diving into what she's wanting to do. And then all of a sudden you go, well, you know what? Like, I'm just excited. Well, thank you so much for sharing that for me. And then you go into the rest of the conversation. I won't break down the whole call, because that's a whole training that we have, and we'd be here for the next 4 hours. But you go down the call, and then you get to the end of the call, and you're like, well, do you have any questions for me? And she might say at that point, yeah, what is the service going to cost? Do you have, like, just an estimate? Right. And you might put out a number, and she might say at that point, but see, because she's already bought emotionally, she might say, well, it's a little higher than we wanted to spend. But honestly, when I think about it, you go to Ruth Chris, you're going to have to buy a steak for $60 and all the sides. I mean, by the time you add up all the wine, like, honestly, this actually might be a little cheaper. And they'll say things like that, but they're emotionally sold. Same with the guy with the Ferrari. Again, there's no practical reason to buy a $400,000 Ferrari, but he's going to come home, or she's going to come home and tell the spouse, but at the dealership, the salesperson was good and was using emotion. Hey, like, what has you looking at Ferrari? Well, ever since I was a kid, it's been on my dream board. Really awesome. Like, when did you create that dream board? Well, when I was six. Six? How old are you, if you don't mind me asking? 46 years old. I just sold my company for $50 million. What? Wow, congratulations. And, like, yeah, and I'm here to buy a Ferrari. Like, it's been a dream of mine. Wow. Well, he's not buying it to get to work, but then, as I'm deep diving as a salesperson, it's like, man, you know what? Like, well, on your dream board, what color did you envision? What was the leather that you wanted in that car? Because I know you know. And I bet you can't wait to smell what it smells like, huh? Well, I have one. You said you want red with the beige, with this, with that, with this trim. Guess what? It's funny to say,
Red
we
with the
actually have
beige.
the dream car right in stock.
Hey, they're all red with the beige.
Yeah, but I'm just making exactly. But then he takes you to the back area, and there it is. It's just that 428, same picture that's on the this guy's vision board. Well, next thing you know, he's like, he's buying that Porsche, and he's pulling up to that first red light on the way home, and he's like, I've made it. Like, I've arrived, right? It's a status thing. He gets home. Here's what's funny. It's all logical to the spouse. Honey, now I knew you were going to buy a Ferrari, but it's 400 grand. It was 400 grand, babe. I just sold the company for 50 million. We're good. But 400 grand, babe, like, our last car was like our Mercedes. It was like 60 grand. And I thought that was expensive. Yeah, but babe, you don't understand. I also got a really good deal. The sticker was 425. They sold to me for 400. And they told me they're going to do the next 2 oil changes for free.
Yeah.
Right?
It's always the same case, whether it's the wife or the
husband, the husband,
the purse.
It's just
$400.
logically verifying the purchase is all it is after the fact. And what's funny is, again, they make you feel all good with, like, the oil changes. Yeah, oil changes are expensive, $2,800 or whatever it is for an average Ferrari oil change. By the way, if you're seeing rainbow, don't worry. We're still here. We love you. And the camera does too. But the camera maybe it's just my face. Maybe it's just shutting off. It doesn't want to see me anymore. But yeah. So anyway, that's just a little bit of I like where the show went today. It took
Into a rainbow.
Yeah. No. Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll get Lucky Charms to sponsor us or something. Yeah, Lucky Charms. No, but seriously, like,
That'd be great for a chef show.
Yeah,
Sugary.
sugary
cereal.
cereal with fake marshmallow puffs. No, but honestly, like I hope you guys got value in today on just like again reforming your mindset on sales. Like again, always remember, like if you're gonna take away anything from their shirt today, like on a nugget point of view, like take this golden nugget. People buy with emotion and they back it up. They back up the decision logically. So it's never, you will have some analytical people, aka Brock Wagner. He is a little more analytical and he'll look at logical. What's funny is they'll always start looking for the logic, but a good salesperson will get them to the emotional.
Yeah, once you understand it, um, you can do both, because then you can read and see which other people are more analytical, or
Correct.
which are also more
Correct.
emotional too. Because some people are smart and they kind of read through that and they say, yeah, I'm actually, they're looking at more of the numbers or whatever it might be. I'm gonna try to
Like
be,
Ben Mala.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna try to do a creative little segue here. So, into your surprise, and the
Yes.
surprise
I
into
forgot
the
about
thing,
my
which is a surprise
surprise.
for everybody viewing this as well,
Sweet.
especially for those who are Sue software users. It's not out yet, but it was pretty freaking neat. I kind of geek out over these things, and
I'm gonna
it
log in
might
right now.
you guys might not understand. Well, it's in testing still, so you guys
Oh,
might understand kind of the full scope of this. But trust me, you're going to hear a lot about it in the news. Probably already heard about it. We will keep up with the times, and we're very innovative, so we're staying ahead of the curve on this. But you mentioned earlier when you're talking on sales calls, right? To get better answers, you have to ask better questions. So that's my
okay.
segue. Right now, you're probably hearing maybe a lot about artificial intelligence,
AI.
AI. Ooh, Elon says
It
it's so
just sounds,
scary.
yeah, it
It
sounds
is
scary because of
dangerous.
artificial
Yeah,
intelligence.
the movie, You
Oh
remember the
yeah,
movie?
yeah,
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 I have
yeah,
to go back and
yeah.
watch that.
I like
Um,
MIB better. Men in Black is better.
I don't know
That's more
what they
aliens.
have to do with either.
Nothing.
Um,
Sorry.
anyway, so AI. If you guys don't know how this can apply to you, let me make it real simple. As a chef, there could be some really profound implications from this. Uh, a lot of great things that can happen from it. And you already did some on your coaching, right? Which was, I believe, and we'll do this now. I want to test it now and have you do it live on air so that people can see what exactly it can do for you. But on one of your coaching calls, you were showing around and you're going, hey, let's see if AI can give us a list of wine recommendations based on a flavor palette and a dish
Oh
from
yeah.
the menu, because that's like we're thinking, okay, we've got this AI. Okay, you can ask it questions, it can do different things, it can write an email for you, or it can create a message for you, but it can do so much more. But you have to ask it the right questions, and they have to be good.
Yep.
And so we're staying ahead of that. We actually integrated it with Sue.
How do we do that?
Syed had like overnight,
By the way,
basically, boom.
real quick for those people that are maybe are right now watching or watching a replay of this, they don't maybe
Mhm.
even know what
They
Sue
don't know what Sue
means.
is. Yeah.
Just explain in 2 seconds what Sue is.
Sue is a software for personal chef businesses. Okay. It stores all of your contacts information, whether they're a lead or a client. It allows you to keep all those details that we talked about when you're on the phone with
Yep.
them. You're extracting all the detail. You can document that. And then it's your whole booking process and your payment processing all wrapped into one. So you can send menus through it. You can send
It's
invoices
awesome.
through it. You put all your clients into it. You can collect inquiries from your website with it. It's meant to do everything that your business needs in order to have that successful, profitable personal chef business without spending hundreds of dollars on 5 different pieces of softwares or using Excel spreadsheets to track everything, being lost and confused. It keeps everything in one place. So
It's awesome.
we've built that software. It's proprietary. We built it from the ground up. We built it following the things that we teach that have built hundreds of successful businesses over and over again. We've built dozens of brands personally
Yep.
ourselves, along with our highest level of students, which are our proteges. We've built their whole brands. They use Sue, and we process all their transactions through it. And so it's a really neat piece of work. And we've been working on it for a long time.
And we brought AI
And
into
we
it
brought
now.
AI into it,
Guys, this is like I'm literally hearing about this for the first time. I didn't know any of this, so
which
that's why
I
my
I didn't
surprise.
realize either. I didn't, Syed. took it upon himself
And
and
by the
just
way,
did it.
Syed,
He's
explain
one
who
of our
Syed is
geniuses.
here.
Say is one of our
I like
genius
how he says
developers.
geniuses because he is.
He is a
He's
genius,
amazing.
and so he built it in. He created, and I like the name of it actually, kind of. So he created this section within Sue called Sue Labs Beta,
Sue Labs. Ooh,
and
that sounds
it sounds like it
sexy.
could be an exclusive area that maybe certain users of ours could get access to going forward as part of beta, right? And what he did was he has a search, basically a chat GPT. So it's called Chat GPT. It's a it's AI. Okay, it's artificial intelligence. You enter a chat into it, ask it to do something, and it does it, right? So I'll do a little example, and he has this built into Sue now. So what we'll do is we'll continue to progress that forward, and it could build menus for you. It can build recipes for you. It can give you
Wow.
wine pair listings. It can do all these
Wow, this
things
is gonna be
that are
awesome.
meant. And so you're on the phone with the client, or you get done with them, and you're like, and they're like, "Hey, could you recommend any wines?" You know, because Ashley, our event coordinator for Dinner with the Chef, actually gets asked that,
Oh yeah, yeah. They'll ask that quite
and
often.
she gets asked for alcoholic beverage, pairings,
Cocktails and
mocktails, different things
mocktails is
like
a
that.
big
It's like, well,
one.
what do I
Yeah.
come up with? What's kind of a good pairing for that? So AI, it has millions of data points that it can pull from. So I don't want to get techie. I'm going to keep it pretty basic, but I'm going to have you do one with me
But
right now.
somehow he integrated
So
it specifically for our chefs.
integrated for Sue. Well, we will. Yeah,
Nice.
we will. We'll kind of we'll pare it down. We'll narrow it down and be able to have it specific to doing things. So we could build
It's
in my
awesome.
mind, I think what's called prompts. So a prompt is the question that you ask. So within Sue, we could give you access to hundreds or dozens or hundreds of different prompts that kind of help you to see how do I ask that, or how do I begin? Well, here's a prompt for you, right?
Mhm.
Like here's the prompt. Um, I want you to act as my um, you know, connoisseur. If I can spell correctly.
For sommelier.
Oh, sommelier. Yeah, is that correct?
Two M's.
Okay, I'm like challenged
I
on my
think
spelling of some of these.
I can't see it from here very well, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I want you to act as my sommelier. Provide for me a list of wines that would pair well with
Pepperoni pizza.
pepperoni pizza. All right, and I will tell you guys what it sends back. Chianti, a light to medium bodied red
Mm,
wine with notes of cherry, leather, and spice that pairs perfectly with the acidity of a tomato based pizza. Um,
it's spitting them out.
so it's not even just giving you a list. It's like telling you why.
Yeah,
Why is it good?
that's pretty awesome.
Pinot Noir, a medium bodied red with rich berry and spice notes that will bring out the flavors of the pepperoni. So you see, I asked a pretty open ended question,
Yeah,
pizza,
yeah.
right? But if you get very specific with a flavor profile, that's like the other day I tried a Parmesan crusted ribeye,
Ooh,
right? Which is like, I wanted to try to get a little specific
for a
for a
wine
wine.
pairing.
Yeah. And it spit back an answer of how it would pair with the nuttiness of the Parmesan. And so
Nice.
you ask better questions, you get better answers.
Yeah.
So if you kind of narrow that down and be more specific, it will give you something that's really great. And so it comes up with, Zinfandel,
Now,
different ones.
can we do something real quick while we're on air?
Yeah.
I want to see if it'll get this crazy. Put in there, I'm gonna do a very similar. Act as my sommelier for, and give me a specific Washington state wine that would pair with um
What's a good Washington State, kind of like a seafood maybe, or
maybe do like that would pair with a salmon piperade, Piperade.
PIP?
Pip.
Yep.
Yep. Erade.
Okay. I want you to act as my sommelier. Provide a specific Washington State wine that would pair
Yeah, I
with
want to
a
see if it gets
salmon,
narrowed into a Washington State wine. I'm pretty impressed if it does.
a great Washington State wine to pair with a salmon what was the pronunciation of that?
Pipperod.
Pipperod would be a bottle of 2015 De Lille Cellars
Jesus, it gives
Chalier
you the
Estate
actual
Blanc.
freaking wine.
This white wine is a
That's
blend
pretty
of
impressive.
Sauvignon Blanc, Similon, and Muscat Canelli grapes, creating an aromatic and smooth wine with flavors of pear, passion fruit, and honeyed peach. The acidity in this wine is balanced by a mineral-driven finish, which will cut through the creamy richness of the
Wow.
salmon pipperod and bring out the flavors of the dish. How impressive
That's pretty impressive.
is that?
Because, by the way, just to give you guys an idea, Inside's such a beast with this, but just to give you guys an idea, this is something that it's not just pulling information from the internet and like saying, here's an article, right? Because that's what Google does. It's like, here's an article. This is literally taking
Context.
billions of
Yeah.
data points, and it's actually that's an answer that you will not find anywhere else. It's giving you that answer specifically as it's like a person, right?
Yep.
That's what it is.
Yep.
I didn't believe it was going to get that specific. 2015,
and that's
whatever.
where I learned.
I might have to buy that.
A better, yeah, and that's where I learned is a better way of asking AI is you want them to, you want the AI. Basically, it's like the AI is a person, basically,
yeah,
right? Like,
so you want to ask a
scary
specific
machine
questions.
person,
yeah, scary
but
machine,
a person
yeah.
nonetheless. And you
Don't
want it
kill
to
us,
act
AI.
as somebody. So if you're wanting it to write a really good blog, then you want them to act as your blog writer, right? You act as my blog writer.
So
your first project is to write a blog.
It would be so cool
about this topic with a sassy undertone, right? You can get so into that to where it's like it'll start to write the words in the tone
of
that
the
you want
sassy
it.
context.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, guys, this is pretty incredible. I know that we don't even have this out yet in Sioux.
And
I
it
know
might,
it's in beta.
and
It's gonna
you might be
develop.
still wrapping your head around it because
It's very new.
It is new and it's very
But
advanced.
You should get on Sioux right now. Just by the way, just a free trial to just see. You know, it's not out yet. We'll maybe announce it on the show when it is.
Yeah, and I would like to release the Sioux Labs just for anybody who would maybe
Just for
opt in.
fun.
If you want to opt into the Sioux Labs, here it is. You can play around with it. You can hang out in there and try different things. But Sioux will continue to progress, and we're such an innovative company. We're always thinking like years ahead.
Yeah.
We want to provide that one-stop shop that is going to literally help you to where you can't help but be successful with your business.
Yeah.
Like AI has so many different potential applications that can automate your business to where you literally become the chef that just shows up and cooks.
I just got an idea, and we're going to see if Syed can do this, but he probably can't because he's the man. I wonder if in Sioux, we can also build a database that the AI can read, right?
Mhm.
As a prompt to, where when you guys put a recipe in, you can say, create me a grocery list for that recipe
it will.
for 10 people.
Oh, it will.
And it'll spit out a grocery list.
Yep.
Awesome. That's going to,
this is so
cool.
As long as we have the data points and the parameters to give it, it can literally do that. And because AI is open right now and it's learning from everyone being on it, there's millions of people on it right now. It's learning all these things. It's just getting smarter and smarter.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's that Terminator? What is it? Star Labs or I forget the name of it in Terminator. It's that company.
Oh yeah, I forgot what it was called.
That's basically
Skylab. No.
Sky
Terminator company.
Yeah.
No, Sky.
Yeah. Skynet.
Skynet. That's what it was.
So
Skynet.
Don't let it scare you.
Hey, we actually had somebody comment in the chat. It says, "Will you provide the spelling of Pipperod?" So it is PIP. Actually, I'll type it. PIPERADE. And all Pipperod is, it's kind of like a yummy. If you search it, it's like a yummy. You know, you take some roasted peppers, you cook them down with a little shallots, garlic. There's different versions of the recipe, but it goes really well with salmon. And it's kind of like, so you can also say, which I don't really think it's a pepperata, but pipperata is kind of like more Italian, but pipperod is more of this cooked down, almost like a bell pepper stew, but it's kind of like a sauce. I don't know how to explain it, but it's really yummy. It's you'll see. But yeah, of course.
I think this is pretty neat. I love this. I love this question about the Washington State wine. paired.
That's impressive to me.
It's
I
very
just can't
impressive.
believe that it spit out an actual like
And then you don't have to.
year in like
The thing is
like
that
vineyard and everything like
a chef can
that.
come in here and put this in here and doesn't even have to think how do I kind of like poetically like word that
Yeah,
to the client.
that's what I was gonna say too. Not only are you getting the actual recommendation for a client or whatever,
Yeah. But you're getting how to
but
propose
you're
it
also
to your
getting how to
client.
propose it and like why. Because if
Yeah.
they ask you why, you better know too,
Yeah.
because you don't want to look like a
Right.
complete idiot.
Well, I find this wine is best because it's going to cut through that creamy richness
Yeah,
of the salmon pit
that's so
parade
cool.
and just really bring out the flavors of the dish. Well, that sounds
That
fantastic.
sounds
I've never
that's
had
pretty
that
cool.
wine actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. I
Yeah.
mean,
So if you want
I'm
to
pretty
sign up,
impressed.
yeah, if you want to get a 14-day free trial of Sue, no credit card, nothing like that. We released our software live earlier this year, or actually late last year,
Late last year, yeah.
around Thanksgiving. We would love to have you on the platform because there are actually some really cool. Aside from this, there's just uh,
The features you need to run
very,
your business.
very.
Yeah,
There's a lot of new improvements that are about to be released, so get on it now. It's really great, and it's solving a lot of problems for chefs
yeah,
because you guys, again, like we said, you guys are so creative and what you do with your cooking and your skills and your talent. But so many personal chefs, it's like you're talented with that, but you have no clue about how do I do the business side of things.
hmm,
That's what we're aiming to make easy for you.
yep,
We want you know what you're doing when it comes to cooking. Now allow us to help you also know what you're doing when it comes to business.
yep.
So you can sign up for a free trial if you visit, just go to app.chefpreneur.com. It'll present a login screen. You can click a button to register. Again, all you do is enter in your name and email, create an account, and boom, you're in. You get
Awesome.
14-day free trial. And then you can decide for yourself if you want to continue with a subscription, a monthly subscription, for just it's a really low payment, to be honest, $39 a month. It gives you access to everything that we have available right now, and it's totally worth it,
As we're
guys. So
recording this, we don't know if the price will go up in the future
yes,
or
as we're
not, but
recording this, so it's $39 right now for this beta release of our software. After that, it's going to go up. It's
yeah,
going to go up in price. So jump in now, get it what you can, help it to grow your business, to start your business,
or
even.
start exactly. And I was gonna say, with that being said, as we wrap up the show as well, if you guys are ever interested in starting a world-class, profitable personal chef business, maybe you already have a personal chef business and you want to grow it to another level, or you're saying, you know what, I've just been doing a lot of research and I really want to start this business, we'd love to help you. When we're done with this video, we're going to have links below for you. You can go ahead and schedule a clarity call with us, and we'll get on the phone with you and we'll see what goals you're trying to accomplish, where you're at in your career, and we'd love to help you. And if it's a good fit, we'd love to help you build your business where you have more income, more freedom as a chef, and honestly finally take your life back. That's what we're here to do. We're here to help you win. So if you guys are interested in that as well, we'll have some links once we kind of get the show uploaded and everything else. We'll have some links here in the bottom of the description of the show, and you can always head over as well to chefpreneur.com. And we're actually redoing our entire website right now, so it should be up in the next week or so officially. But we're kind of redoing it. We're gonna have some great resources on there for you guys. You'll have access to obviously how to tune into this show every single week, and that's Chefpreneur. So sometimes it'd be a little tricky to spell when you're first writing it out, but there you go, CHEF, chef, and then PRENEUR.com. And yeah, anything else before we wrap up the show, Brock?
No,
No.
have a blessed day.
Have a blessed day,
Become
guys.
a chefpreneur.
Become a
It's the way to go.
chefpreneur. Have a great rest of your week. We love you. We'll see you guys next week, Wednesday, same time. It actually rhymes. Tune in at 5. Wait,
5 o'clock
5
Eastern.
But how did I wait? Earlier I said it rhymed. I don't know what I was thinking. And what's rhyming at 5?
I don't know.
Oh, that's right. Tune in every Wednesday where we go live at 5 p.m. Eastern time.
All right.
There you go.
See
Anyway,
you
God
later.
bless you guys. Take
Peace.
care. We'll talk to you.